So this week's episode of Full Dive was pretty surprising, all things considered. Now, as someone who's been enjoying all the episodes, even up till episode 6 now, I really enjoy the comedy aspect of having a character who really is playing, you could argue, the worst game ever, but you could also argue has some of the more interesting mechanics given its kind of a skill gap, right? It's kind of like if you enjoy the thrill of Dark Souls, crank that up by a million and, actually have some of that pain redirected towards the player. So I've been enjoying the comedy angle, but I do understand when people say, oh, they wish Hiro would make some progress. We wish that it wouldn't just be outbursts and funny slapstick moments. For them, I think episode 6 is like their answer, because while it did have the traditional humor overreacting plot lines, this was an episode where not only did our main character massively progress this game, get over a situation which I thought was either going to end very stupid, like he was attempting to do with the boob grab, which completely blew up in his face, or he would just end up getting killed and somehow start a new character, buy a new chair, or Riona would give him a new gaming PC or something like that, right? I just felt like they were going to go very ridiculous with it. Instead, they went pretty serious, all things considered, and I actually think that's a refreshing change of pace. Even as someone who's been enjoying the formula up until this point, I can recognize when it's a good idea to change up some things, and that's exactly what they did in this episode. I'm sure some people might want to argue Hiro got pretty emotional with Martin's parting scene and things like that. Why would he care so much? It almost felt like he was losing someone pretty real to him, but when you have a game that's literally designed to make it feel like reality, I can completely understand why a flashback, even though it was kind of stupid with how only Hiro was the one speaking kind of ridiculous, everyone else was pretty much normal, where he sounded like a country buffoon. I can understand when you kind of get those memories swarming into you because you're literally reliving those past memories, even if they weren't originally yours and it was just a game program set out to make something occur. By experiencing something that real, I can understand why he might get a little teary-eyed. I mean, when I play games like Mass Effect and you get to choose the decisions and relationships and how they build, I mean, I literally get so connected to characters that I do everything in my power to keep everyone alive. So if you're actually invested into a game, even if he hasn't been invested up until that point, given how they kind of directed that, oh my god, here's all the information, the promise they made. It's cheesy, it's whatever, but you can understand put in his shoes, it could invoke those emotions given the fact that it has all the senses. I mean, from what we've seen, a show like this, where a character plays a game where he can feel things very similar to that of pain, it makes total sense that he could also have emotions like, withdrawal and not wanting to see your long-lost childhood friend go. And I imagine if video games ever got to that potential and like that row, the idea of flooding you with like emotions and like remembering something you forgot could probably be something that's very gripping as a game player, and maybe emotionally straining at the same time, right? Now, as an episode trying to avoid the death flags after having kind of your jailkeeper torturer coming in to save the day, I thought it was great because there was quite a few moments that I found chuckle-worthy. The biggest one for me personally was actually how you have someone who clearly is invested in messing with our main character. And I love how when they're building up like, oh, maybe he should let her join his party because one, if she's already following him and she's not killing him or doing anything bad, she's literally the perfect bodyguard because she's enthralled by you. And as they're having this conversation and they're discussing, I wonder what her like tracking skills are, maybe she'd be a good assassin. No, she just has a pretty okay sense of smell and she's followed the smell of your piss-soaked pants because this isn't a world where things just magically disappear. He hasn't bought new pants, he hasn't cleaned his pants, and it's ridiculous. It's very basic humor, but given what we've seen up until that point, that's the type of stuff that is mildly entertaining, and I think the show knows exactly what it wants to be in terms of its style of humor. The action overall was nothing extraordinary. There was a couple of still shots that were pretty impressive with these two clashing, and I actually liked how rather than just going she has a giant saw blade going up against a crazy yandere with some kitchen knives. A good kick to the stomach is going to knock a lot of people out, or at least make them have to catch their breath. And the build-up to him trying to figure out what the walkthrough was trying to indicate, which, I said it, as soon as the walkthrough was introduced, I was like, I'd want to play that game or give it a shot. As long as I'm not getting my legs cut off and I can't log out anymore after that, there is an appeal to the hardness of this game. So for him to go into that base like, okay, well, we're going to go realistic. A girl will get embarrassed, especially considering that there's probably like that romantic tension if I grab her breast. To me personally, I was like, my man, I can see the path you're following, especially if we've seen enough anime, we've seen enough of these types of cliches. But a girl who's trying to kill you, I feel like that's just gonna make her encouraged to kill you more or something. So when originally she kind of seemed a little embarrassed, I was like, oh, they're actually going to commit to this. And I was a little unsure of how to feel because I was like, this doesn't make a lot of sense, even though a lot of the absurdity here, you could argue, doesn't make sense. So when she actually like threw it in his face, you think I'm some dumb bitch, basically. You think you're the first one to ever touch me there, get the hell out of here. So instead, he plays with the emotional side. And even though you could argue the emotional, we were best friends, I love you, let's be together, all that, you could argue is the most boring outcome. I think it's the most realistic given the realism of this game. The fact that when he starts up, he has these childhood friends, they love him, they support him, and the fact that they went the direction of her just simply trying to kill him because rather than doing the normal thing that her childhood friend and potential love interest should have done, oh my god, that was an accident, instead he ran away and it became this comedic, ridiculous series, right? So I like how because Hiro recognized what he did wrong, he's actually able to start salvaging things more, and he avoided arguably the biggest death flag. And I'm not sure if because he changed it in such a way that maybe she went off and started those fires at the end of the episode, or if it's going to be completely unrelated. Either way, it's nice to see how they're avoiding, I think, more predictable elements than most of us are probably assuming we're going to pop up, right? I mean, the idea of like once he does grab her breast, well, that's going to be how they avoid it. Or, you know, maybe our crazy saw chick's going to crack her over the head. Instead, they went a more emotional direction, which actually progressed his game progress. And while, of course, we won't see him beat the game in this season, we'll probably never see him beat the game in the anime, even if it gets a second season, right? There's actually progress starting to be made, and as long as he takes it seriously and reacts seriously to these important moments, you can see a path line that he can follow. And that's what makes it pretty interesting, is it balances some good funny moments with actual progress, which is the one thing you could argue was desperately missing from this show. Him making progress, and it's understandable why he got stuck for so long, and some people might argue it took too long to get to this progress, but for me, as someone who's enjoyed it for all 6 episodes, this just says to me we're starting an exciting, new, progress-filled chapter of Full Dive, and I'm here for it. The worst thing I can criticize about this is that its production isn't really anything to write home about. There's a lot more still shots than what you typically see, especially for VR MMO anime adaptations, isekai adaptations. There's a lot of standing around, and even when they do move, there's nothing too flashy about it. The one good aspect is that the art design is pretty clean, so they're fun characters to look at, even when they aren't moving all that much. But in terms of its narrative, while I see where some people's issues are coming from, for me personally, it's just an entertaining show. I may not bust out laughing non-stop, but when it does get me to chuckle, I appreciate the humor, and I find this game to be very, very fascinating, especially considering how real changing such an event could then trigger something that even someone who's been a part of this game world for so long has never seen the likes of. So yeah, I'm excited for episode 7 for sure, but let me know your thoughts and feelings and definitely your theories down below. What did you think, and where do you think it's going to go with the second half of this pretty insane show, all things considered? If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, share your support, and hit that subscribe button if you're happy new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.